Hey, what's up, guys? Today I'm doing a quick, not really a live reaction, but I just want to talk about TSM vs Dig Game 1 draft really quick, and because it's a pretty interesting one, and I just wanted to give my quick thoughts on it. So, the first pick of the whole draft on TSM side was Rumble, which is actually pretty strong right now. I think the champ has pretty little counterplay, especially in lane, and he scales really well with the ultimate, obviously. Great team fighter. And then Dig ended up answering first rotation with the Tristana Maokai, which I just think is super strong. Jace was also open. They could have taken Jace Maokai. They went with the Trist Maokai. I think Tristana is more consistent just as an overall champion than the Jace, and easier to execute on. So I like the first rotation from Dig. Overall, Dig's draft actually ended up being pretty solid. And then TSM answered second rotation with the Jace and the Ezreal, which was interesting. So with their first three picks, Rumble, Jace, Ezreal, they're committing heavily to poke. And so it's really interesting because with Dig answered R3 with Ornn. So they recognized that, hey, TSM is committing pretty hard to poke. So we need to be decisive around objectives and we need to commit to fighting. And having that, the Ornn ult and the Maokai ult to just be able to pull the trigger instantly and be able to be really decisive in their engages is going to be really important, because you don't want to just sit around against a poke comp around objectives taking unnecessary damage and eventually you'll just be forced off. So having that trigger, that go button with the Ornn and the Maokai is really strong. Also, having Ornn plus Maokai for frontline into Ezreal Jace is really strong, as we see first blood there. I have no idea what Poom was doing. He's a pretty trash player, honestly. That was awful. But through the first pick phase, Dig countered the poke from TSM pretty well, with just really strong frontline and a really strong engage. And then Dig ended up R4 and Rakan. I wanted them to R4 Varus because Varus was open, but Rakan is just fine and obviously a good support. One thing I do want to note is that TSM did end up banning Xayah in second rotation, which is really bad because there's no chance Dig is going to be picking Xayah into 3 poke champions. That would just be utter suicide. Xayah wouldn't be able, it can't play into long range. So that was a pretty bad ban from TSM's part. But then TSM rounded out with the Lilia and the Sett. I think the Lilia is okay. I think they could have used more frontline, but the Sejuani was banned. I was trying to think of something they could pick in its place, but I was struggling to find something. So I think overall the Lilia is fine. It definitely can have a lot of impact, especially against double marksman. But again, with the front line, with the amount of CC that Dig have, it could be difficult for the Lilia to function. And then the Sett, I absolutely hate. I think it's a trash pick, and it's pretty useless, even though obviously we saw it just get first blood. But that is what it is, rather. And then Dig last picked the Zeri on R5, which is really interesting because, yes, it's pretty on theme with the rest of the team comp. It's like scaling and team fight, which is obviously what Dig want to do here. But it's so short range, and you're playing into Rumble, Lilia, Jace, Ezreal. So I'm not entirely sure how the Zeri is going to function in this game. It's probably going to be pretty rough for her at all stages, really. I'm not entirely sure the kind of impact she's going to have, but I think that the top 3, the core 3 for Dig, with Ornn, Maokai, and Trist is really solid. So I definitely lean towards Dig's side in this draft. It's going to be an interesting kind of an interesting vibe in this game because TSM have double pushing lanes. And mid lane Jace can get pushed, but Trist is most likely going to always have push in that lane. But for bot lane and top lane, TSM is always going to have push, so it should be auto Rift Prio. They should be able to get the first 2 dragons, which for Dig is fine giving up first 2 dragons because they scale so well. But the thing is, if they end up fighting early Rift Heralds and early dragons, when they scale better and they end up falling behind because they lose those fights, it's going to be pretty doomed for them. So what Dig needs to do is just recognize this game that they scale way better, and that their goal is to play late game team fights around objectives and pull the trigger with Ornn and Maokai and just play basic front to back team fighting. Dig's comp is really easy to execute, and they just need to recognize their win conditions here and what they actually want to do as a team. So hopefully we don't see any unnecessary fights out of them early game, and they can just kind of chill and scale up, get to 2 or 3 items on the Zeri and the Trist and be fine. On TSM side, they're kind of weird, skirmishy, pokey comp. It could work, but it's definitely harder to execute. Poke comps in general are hard to execute, and Delillia is also just kind of randomly thrown in there. I do like the pick, she's a really good champion, but this comp seems pretty tough to play, and the set is not going to have a lot of value in my opinion. But we will see how it turns out. So far, an early lead for TSM, but I just wanted to give my quick reaction and quick thoughts on how the draft played out and kind of what to expect heading into this game 1. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this series, and we will see how the rest of it turns out. So thanks for watching. See you next time.